Marvel. Start to create Hydra. Chapter 21. Clark's combat literacy is far inferior to that of the Winter Soldier, and the gap in skill is too great. The Winter Soldier was a fierce general on the battlefield before being brainwashed by Hydra, and he was proficient in at least 2 or more combat skills, and after being brainwashed by Hydra, he deeply learned various combat skills. In Marvel's profile, the Winter Soldier's combat skill value is 7. That is, mastery of all fighting methods. Facing such a martial arts master, Clark is not an opponent, and it is normal. However, as the two continue to fight, Clark is also learning some of the other party's skills. As we all know, superhuman learning ability is very scary. Although Clark now only fuses 0.1% of the Kryptonian template, it still gives him a learning ability beyond ordinary people. During the ensuing fight, Clark gradually caught up with the Winter Soldier, and he began to try to counterattack. The Winter Soldier's combat literacy is really strong. Clark's pitiful counterattack was all dodged by him without exception, and countered. Several times Clark almost cocooned himself, and finally he learned to be obedient and no longer blindly counterattacked. As the duration of the battle continues to prolong, the Winter Soldier gradually could not completely suppress Clark. With the physical fitness of the Winter Soldier, except for that metal arm, it is not as strong as Clark. He could have relied on combat skills far beyond Clark's, which made him unable to fight back, and he was almost captured several times. But as Clark gradually picked up the rhythm, he even began to control the rhythm. The Winter Soldier became a little uncomfortable. "You seem to be dying." Clark caught the fist swung by the Winter Soldier with one hand, but the flesh and blood right arm was a big difference in strength compared to the metal left arm, and Clark could easily take his fist. Without saying a word, the Winter Soldier struck Clark with a fierce whip on his left leg. What else can you rely on besides that metal arm? Clark grabbed the Winter Soldier's left leg, and with both arms, he directly lifted him up and smashed into the wall in front of him at great speed. Bang! A hole was smashed directly into the wall. Clark was unforgiving, rushed into the hole, grabbed the Winter Soldier and smashed it against another wall. Bang! The Winter Soldier was smashed dizzy. If he hadn't covered his head with his left arm on both occasions, he might have passed out a long time ago. Rao is so, when he wants to get up, the whole person is also shaking left and right. It's over. Clark appeared behind the Winter Soldier. He firmly grabbed the Winter Soldier's metal left arm with both arms, stepped on the backbone of the Winter Soldier with one foot, and his arms suddenly exerted force, and he heard the sound of crunching continuously. The Winter Soldier, who has been silent, couldn't help but let out a painful wail at this time, and the mask on his face had long ago not known where it had fallen. A burst of electric sparks burst out. After a minute or two of stalemate, the entire metal left arm of the Winter Soldier was violently ripped off by Clark. "You should stay here first." Clark looked at the ground in front of him, the Winter Soldier who had passed out in a coma. He turned back to the previous study, put the metal left arm in his hand on the desk, spared the desk to the back of the desk, and lightly tapped the ground with the heel of his left foot. "What an old fox," Clark muttered. Then he began to fumble around the desk. Soon, he found a knob in a drawer on the left-hand side that could be rotated. Turn the knob, and there is a slight sound on the ground. As the floor slashed, a straight-down passage was revealed. There is an access power supply in the channel, and the light is still on. Clark jumped directly, 3 or 4 meters high, which was nothing to him at all. After jumping down, in front of you is a horizontal passage. The passage is not deep, only 5 or 6 meters, and there is a metal gate at the other end. Clark walked over to the door and reached out and knocked. "Come in directly, the door is unlocked." A voice came from inside the door. Clark gripped the doorknob and pulled it. Sure enough, the door was open. Inside the door, there is a room arranged similar to the study above. As soon as Clark entered, he saw Falcone sitting there calmly, seemingly waiting for him to arrive. Hydra's people are really unreliable. Falcone first mocked, and then said, "I know you have to kill me tonight, now I sit in front of you, you can do it." Quote. "Why?" Clark asked. "Why didn't I leave?" Falcone smiled. Even under threat of death, he still looked so elegant, like a real aristocratic gentleman. "If I run away tonight, I'm afraid that I will face the constant pursuit and killing of your night demon in the future." Falcone shook his head. I'm not going to let myself be that embarrassed, so if I had to choose, I'd rather settle it all tonight. Quote. He pointed at Clark and then at himself. Either you die or I die. So, you bet all your treasures on Hydra. Clark asked. I've tried my best. Falcone said. The strength of ordinary people is always no match for enhanced people like you. Maybe the future world will belong to you. The funny Hydra is still dreaming of dominating the world, but they don't know that the world has changed, and they are doomed to only die. Quote. No, you're wrong. Clark grabbed Falcone's neck with one hand, leaned over and said, it's not us, it's me. Moreover, Hydra will never fail. Cut off one head, and two will grow. Hydra, hooray. Quote. Click. Twisting Falcone's neck, Clark gently lowered his body to maintain a sitting position. This old man, except for the difference in position. In fact, it is quite respectable to Clark. And the El Shanji underground world, which lost the Falcone family, is also destined to usher in a new round of bloody storms. Clark was the initiator of all this. But that's what Clark hoped to achieve. In the underground tunnel where Falcone died, Clark also found a huge vault. After using Falcone's fingerprint to unlock it, the pearlescent aura in the open vault made Clark stunned for a moment. It is worthy of the family that has ruled the underground world of El Shanji for 100 years, this financial power. In the entire vault, in addition to storing a large number of modern products, the most are some gold jewelry, as well as some priceless famous paintings. Even people like Clark, who don't know much about so-called world-famous paintings, have found one or two famous paintings that he can name. These dozens of famous paintings alone are roughly estimated to be worth billions of dollars. And those gold jewelry. Boxes and boxes are not valuable, the real value is those that are placed in small display cases alone, all of which are treasures worth tens of millions of dollars. In contrast, the current one stacked on top of each other cabinet is not very eye-catching. That cabinet, up to the sky, is tens of millions. Take a diamond necklace out here, there are more than tens of millions. Rich. What a rich. Quote. Clark marveled. But now, all that money belongs to him. Back on the surface, Clark went to look at the Winter Soldier first. It turned out that this guy was missing. Is the vitality so tenacious? Clark smiled and shook his head, not taking it to heart. It's just a Winter Soldier, and it doesn't matter if you kill or not. What's more, he still has a lot of use value. Now kill, but it's a pity. But the next time you encounter it, just twist off his other arm. Clark thought to himself. I just don't know, after the Winter Soldier with broken arms returns to Hydra, will those guys from Hydra press two metal arms on him? If that's the case, it's interesting. Maybe next time he can try to unscrew both of his legs. The Winter Soldier with all four limbs is all metal, it's just wow. Ignoring the failed mission and fleeing Winter Soldier, Clark found some boxes in the manor and made more than a dozen trips before moving all the contents of the underground vault. After moving all these things to a car, watching the chassis of the car drop a lot, Clark was really worried that the car would break its bearings halfway. Man, you have to hold on. Clark started the car and slowly drove to the open space in the front yard of the manor. By this time, the rainstorm had stopped. With the smell of earth wafting in the air after the rain, Clark walked to the gate of the manor, hit the lighter in his hand, and casually threw the gasoline trail in front of him. Killing, arson. This has become his habit. Watching the raging fire engulf the entire manor, Clark turned away satisfied. Street. Peter's warehouse area. Warehouse 116A. Clark slowly drove the car into the warehouse, closed the door of the warehouse after getting out of the car, and locked it. Syllable. Syllable. Turn on the light, and the warehouse suddenly lights up. I can only put it here for the time being. Take down the things in the car one by one and put them away, and cover them with a layer of cloth as a cover. Although if a thief really breaks in, this layer of cloth does not play a protective role, but it is better than nothing. The warehouse had been rented by Clark earlier to store some of the loot. It is the identity of a dead man. The security of the saint. Peter's warehouse area is still very good, there are people patrolling around the clock, and there are basically no thefts. Clark had stored some loot here before, and it had not been patronized by thieves. But tonight's batch is indeed a bit big. If there are really thieves visiting here, I am afraid that they will immediately wonder if they are dreaming. Completely destroy the dominance of the Falcone family, cause regional turmoil, and destroy plus 10,000 points. Closing square bracket. Seriously damage the Winter Warrior, destroy its mission completion, destroy points plus 2,000. Closing square bracket. Destroy a Hydra conspiracy and destroy points plus 1,000. After returning home, Clark received 3 system prompts in succession. Among them, what made him most happy was the first one, which destroyed the dominance of the Falcone family and directly caused turmoil in the underground world of the El Shanji region, for which the system rewarded 10,000 destruction points. This is the largest points income Clark has ever earned. Compared with the 5,000 given by the last stewed egg, it is more than double. But if you think about it, it makes sense. After all, the Falcone family is a behemoth that has ruled the underground world of El Shanji for 100 years, and the order of almost the entire underground world of the city is decided by their family. Without the suppression of the Falcone family, you can imagine what the underground world of El Suji will be like for a long time to come. Almost any cow, ghost, and snake will jump out to show their sense of existence. Therefore, the system gives a reward of 10,000 destruction points. In Clark's opinion, it is a little less. After all, this is El Shanji, not some unknown small city. System, check the balance of ruin points. Destruction points, 14,203 points. There is no need to say anything, add points. Already owned template, Kryptonian template 0.1% plus. The idea clicked on the plus sign 14 times in a row before the plus sign disappeared completely. Already owned template, Kryptonian template 0.24%. Comfortable. Clark grinned. Glancing at the remaining 203 destruction points. Clark directly closed the character panel. Go to bed and get up early tomorrow to bask in the sun. In the next few days, El's underground world became more and more chaotic. The news of the death of old Falcone is all over the place. In fact, it can't hide anyone. After all, the fire that night, many people with intentions are in the eyes. After that, the night demon was still active in El Sugiso. But the figure of old Falcone seemed to have disappeared. Although the other members of the Falcone family tried their best to hide the news of the death of the old Falcone, just like paper could not contain the fire, under the investigation of people with intentions, the news was quickly made public. Messed up. Utter mess. The heir of the Falcone family's generation is an unlearned waste, and if it weren't for the support of the old Falcone all the time, the family would have been unable to deter these gangs anymore. And now that the old Falcone has died, the direct power of the Falcone family has almost been wiped out that night. No matter how hard the other members of the Falcone family tried, it was impossible to undo all this. Moreover, the stupid little Falcone did not realize that just when he was dreaming that this world was about to be controlled by him, black hands had quietly reached out to him. A few days later, the body of little Falcone was found in a nightclub box and the cause of death was an overdose of washing powder. But everyone knows that even if little Falcone is an idiot, he will never touch those things. The so-called cause of death is simply fooling fools. After the death of Falcone Jr., the underground world of El Suji became more chaotic, and some foreign forces began to join the battle. Every day on the TV news, you can see how many bodies were found in such and such a place, and there was an explosion in such and such a place. In such a chaotic situation, Clark also took the opportunity to subdue a group of desperate guys to become a new tool in his hands and bring him more sabotage point income. Clark's only task for these outlaws is to let them go around and wreak havoc every day. The two gangs were grabbing territory, and they stepped in sideways. The most egregious thing is that they don't want territory at all, just chasing people from two gangs to fight. These days, ordinary people dare not take half a step out of their homes at night. I am afraid that one will accidentally be involved in the fight between these gangs. The local police also worked overtime all day for this, and the days when they usually only needed to sit in the office and drink coffee were gone forever. This situation lasted for more than a month before it gradually subsided. And in this more than a month, the group of outlaws that Clark temporarily pulled up also died and changed, and so on several times, and finally even if Clark offered a large price, no one joined, and this stopped. Even so, in the past month or so, Clark has reaped nearly 50,000 destruction points. All the points were invested by him into the Kryptonian template, so that the integration of the template increased to 0.72% in a short time. Clark's own physical fitness has also improved to nearly 200 times that of ordinary people in the process of uninterrupted sun basking for more than a month. The effect of magic resistance is actually the same as Clark's original physical defense, which is equivalent to making the originally stagnant magic defense increase the speed directly following his physical defense. In addition, it also improved Clark's magical talent to a certain extent. But magical talent is hidden. Clark himself hadn't even noticed. On this day, the wind and waves were calm and the sky was cloudless. Clark took his younger brother to tour his territory in the morning, and in the afternoon he went to a newly opened internet cafe to sit for a while, playing a supposedly popular online game. The results were a big disappointment. For Clark, who has memories from a previous life, online games like this ancient era are really not interesting. He is a picture-quality party, followed by a plot party. You don't have the quality and the plot, he really can't like it. Evening. Clark and Abigail ate a takeout meal at home. John and Lisa went out tonight to enjoy the world of two. This is very common in Lao Mi. Adults with children at home occasionally go to the hotel outside to open a room or something, enjoy a quiet world of two, maintain the relationship between each other. However, although the two adults in the family were not there, they hired a nanny to take care of the children. The nanny is actually a child, named Christina, 17 years old, still a high school student, just graduated from the 10th grade. Tina was familiar with Clark and Abigail. She has been a nanny for the Kent family for 2 years, and her family lives in this area, very close, and their parents know each other, which is considered a friendship, and occasionally has a dinner on weekends. After dinner, the three played games for a while. By 10 o'clock, Clark and Abigail had to go to bed. Okay, you two little ones stop playing, it's time to go to sleep. Tina clapped her hands and said. Tina, let's play a little longer, just for a while. Abigail, who didn't want to sleep, looked pleading. No, Mr. Kent will definitely call me later and ask me, I can't help you lie. HMPH. Ruthless. Quote. Abigail snorted angrily, stomped her little feet, and ran upstairs with her little slippers kicked. Your sister has gone to sleep, and you should go to sleep too. Tina looked at Clark, who was still making a drink. Clark finished the drink in his cup, then got off the couch, turned and walked slowly to the staircase. He said without looking back. Remember to clean up, and don't ask your fox friends to play again, last time I told you, there will be no next time. It wasn't until she watched Clark's figure disappear at the entrance of the stairs that Tina pouted strangely and muttered in her mouth. Abominable. Clark, this stinky little ghost, dared to threaten me, forget it, I don't know like a child. Quote. Thinking that Clark was the leader of the Hydra organization, Tina decisively chose to follow her heart. At 4 o'clock in the morning, a red light fell from the sky and fell in a corner of the city. Clark, who was resting, suddenly opened his eyes, got out of bed, and looked in a certain direction out the window. There, that energy reaction just now, could it be Captain Marvel? Quote. As more and more stellar energy is absorbed, it brings not only some improvements in physical fitness, but also some improvements in perception. Just now, Clark obviously sensed an extremely large energy suddenly appear in the city. It was something he had never sensed before. Go check it out. Clark immediately rolled the window and went out. After leaving the community, he directly turned into the appearance of a night demon and ran quickly in that direction. Less than 10 minutes. Clark got to the place. This is a Pepsi video store. In the middle of the ceiling, a not small hole was knocked out. When Clark arrived, he happened to see a woman in strange dress knocking on the window of a police car parked on the side of the road. It's really her. Clark's eyes lit up. Because the closest to the current timeline is the plot of Captain Marvel, Clark has been recalling the relevant plot content of this movie for some time ago. He really remembered a lot of details from it. For example, this Captain Marvel will not use this power in his body at present, at most he will simply shoot energy rays from his hands, which is an extremely single attack. For example, her current name is not Carol Danvers, instead called Firth. The source of the name is her original nameplate that has been burned in half. It should be said that this way of naming is lazy enough. Since Carol has returned to Earth, then the Skuru must be almost there, followed by the Kree, and which famous accuser Ronan. Some time ago, Clark was thinking about how he could benefit from the plot of Captain Marvel. Directly killing Captain Marvel is obviously unrealistic. So can it only be targeted at the Skuru and the Kree? Clark doesn't think so. He thought of a special way to participate in this plot and promised that he would get the most out of it. It is said that spoilers die for the whole family. But what Clark is going to do this time is this kind of lack of virtue that kills and dies. I saw that the policeman in the car was already reporting the situation here. Clark ignored him and walked directly towards Carol, who had already walked into the phone booth. Knock knock. Clark knocked on the glass of the phone booth. Carol, who was about to disassemble the public phone, paused and looked at Clark outside with vigilant eyes. Hello, Miss Firth from Hera, or should I call you by your original name, Carol? Miss Danvers. Quote. Clark immediately took a dose of fierce medicine as soon as he came up. Hala was the capital of the Kree Empire. Although this is not a secret in the universe, it is a content that touches the blind spot of knowledge for humans living on Earth. What are you? Why do you know my name? Also, I've never had a name like Carol. Quote. Carol stopped the movement of her hand and stared at Clark. No, you have, it's just that you forgot. Clark had a mysterious smile on his face. Let me help you recall. Your name is Carol Danvers, born in Massachusetts, well, this planet under our feet, not some planet ruled by the Kree Empire. Quote. You have been eager to fly since you were a child, and you want to become a pilot, but your father did not support you to do so. But you are a stubborn temper, and no one can change what you decide, so you secretly joined the US Air Force and received a series of rigorous training, but you still couldn't really fly into the blue sky. Knowing you, I met Dr. Moelle, who gave you the opportunity to truly soar above this blue sky by joining you in her Pegasus program. But unfortunately, just when the Pegasus project was about to succeed, you were attacked by the Kree ship, and the plane you were fighting fell down, and Moelle was killed by the Kree commander Young. Rogue shoots while you destroy the plane's energy source core at the last critical moment. Quote. At that time, the energy that escaped was absorbed by your body for some unknown reason, which is why you have this special ability. Clark looked at Carol's hands. There was already energy gathering on them. It seemed that Clark's words were not a little stimulation for her. Brave. Rogue realized your specialness, so he brought you back to the Kree Empire, brainwashed you, re-educated you, and made you a sword of the Kree Empire. Quote. Oh, right. Your current name, Firth, ha ha ha. Quote. Clark couldn't help but laugh. Carol glared at him angrily, almost not holding back. I'm sorry, I'm specially trained, unless I can't help it, I won't laugh. Clark apologized insincerely. Your current name is actually Yang. Rogue saw your damaged Air Force name tag and gave it to you using the last two words of your last name, isn't it very perfunctory? Funny. Quote. I'm not funny at all. Carol gritted her teeth a little. Clark stopped teasing her. By the way, you have a best friend, Maria. Rambo, remember? Quote. Clark observed her expression. He saw a look of remembrance on Carol's face, but it was quickly replaced by confusion. Can't remember. It's okay, you will remember it when you think about it slowly. Quote. Why do you make me believe what you say? Carol questioned. Of course, you have the right not to believe what I say, but the purpose of my coming this time is just an expression of goodwill. Clark looked regretful. You have great power. You should not be used by a group of weak people. The strong should have the style of being a strong person, right? Quote. I don't understand what you're talking about. Carol frowned. It's okay, you'll understand later. Behind him, there was the sound of braking. Clark looked back, a flash of surprise in his eyes. Coming so fast. He turned his head and looked at Carol. Okay, I've already said what I should say. Now someone is looking for you, we'll see you next time. After speaking, Clark did not give Carol a chance to react, turned around and left directly, and the figure quickly disappeared. That person just now. Fury, who had just got out of the car, looked over there, frowning, and vaguely he seemed to see the figure of an old acquaintance. But if it's that guy, it's not a good thing. Speaking of which, since the last time he reported the news that Hydra might make a comeback, there has been no movement in the Bureau, and he has also asked his superior, and the answer is that the matter still needs to be discussed and confirmed, and even if it is confirmed, the action will not be carried out in an upright manner. Fury can't help it. He is only a third-level agent, and he cannot change the decision of the top. You can only choose to accept. But in his heart, he kept this in mind. Hello, this young lady, please show your documents. Fury brought Coulson over, showed his ID to identify himself, and then looked at the woman in front of him. Strange dress up. This was his first impression. Looks heroic, like a warrior. Well, the eyes are sharp, not like a good stubble. While Fury was evaluating Carol, Carol was thinking back to what Clark had said to her before. She couldn't judge whether what the other party said was true or false, but some of the content did touch the long-term memories that were hidden in her mind, which made her gradually realize that her identity may not really be like her Commander Young. As Rogue said, it's that simple. Hey, miss, are you listening? Quote. It took Fury a while to realize that the woman in front of him wasn't listening to him at all, which made him very distressed. Carol came back to his senses. She glanced at the dark-skinned guy in front of her. The other party should be some kind of official on this planet, and judging by the weapons worn by the other party, it should belong to the combat department. However, Carol is not in the mood to care about this now. She just wants to find out her identity as soon as possible. Is it like the person just said? Sorry. We are not used to writing identity information on small cards. Quote. Carol's tone was not friendly. But Fury didn't care. He had dealt with a lot of similar things, and many of the people he met had much worse attitudes than Carol, and he had extensive experience in dealing with such people. When Clark got home, it was almost 5 o'clock. 7:30 in the morning. Abigail got up to wash. Clark also pretended to be just up. John and Lisa arrived home at 8, and after packing their luggage, Lisa prepared breakfast, and John picked up the newspaper for the new day. At 8:30, the family had breakfast. John and Lisa both went to work. Abigail went to a friend's house to play. Clark also left the house under the pretext of going to play with friends. It wasn't hard to find Carol. At least for Clark. It took him just over an hour to find Carol, who was about to steal a motorcycle. The plot doesn't seem to have changed much. Clark looked at the scene not far away, and it was not much different from the original plot in his memory. He didn't know that Carol didn't contact Young because of his words. Rogue. It also means that Young. Rogue still does not know Carol's whereabouts. Looking at Carol, who had already rode away on his motorcycle, Clark hesitated, but decided to follow. He needed to get enough out of Carol. Space Administration Joint Base of the United States Air Force. This is the depths of the desolate Gobi, and the entire base is located in the belly of a barren mountain. When Fury brought Carol here, Clark followed all the way and followed here. It's really secret enough. Clark looked at the air base in front of him, his eyes shining strangely. He wondered if he destroyed the air base. How many points will I get? Without waiting for Clark to put his thoughts into action. More than a dozen black cars appeared in his line of sight, slowly driving into the air base. People from S.H.I.E.L.D. Thousands of meters away, Clark could still see clearly the clothes of those in the car. Only, why are people from S.H.I.E.L.D. here at this time? Obviously on the front foot, Fury took Carol just inside. On the back foot, these S.H.I.E.L.D. people arrived. It stands to reason that these people shouldn't have arrived after Fury sent a signal for help. It's kind of interesting, so these guys may not be just people from S.H.I.E.L.D. What does it mean to be more than just a S.H.I.E.L.D. person? Those who understand naturally understand. Obviously, this group of guys has a great probability that they are Hydra people. Why are they here? Did you follow Fury all the way? Or did they set their sights on Carol early in the morning? Whatever the reason, the development of things finally deviated from the original plot, which was profitable for Clark. It's better if these Hydra people can provoke Carol. However, this is unlikely to happen. Hydra is not a stupid snake. Even if they don't know Carol's true strength, they also know that the matter involves alien civilizations, and the Earth civilization that is at an obvious disadvantage will not take the initiative to use violence as a priority solution. Hydra's purpose is to rule the world, not destroy it. As long as they don't want the Earth civilization to be devastated, they won't do such a stupid thing. But they won't, I will. Clark followed with a smile. In the airbase. More than a dozen cars stopped, the doors opened, except for the first few wearing black suits and ties, the others were all dressed in black combat uniforms, all with grim faces, giving people a sense of slaughter. Huh. A member of the special operations team walking at the back suddenly felt that he had been bumped and looked back. Go faster. The person who hit him was also dressed as a special combat team, and when he saw him turn back, he not only did not apologize, but also arrogantly reprimanded. It's you who go too fast. The member of the special combat team who was hit frowned and replied in a deep voice. After walking for a while, he suddenly remembered, didn't he fall at the back of the line? So who is this person behind yourself? Realizing that the situation was wrong, the members of the special combat team who just wanted to make a move suddenly had their necks firmly pinched by a pair of big hands. Almost instantly, his consciousness was completely plunged into darkness. Shove this guy into an iron cabinet on the side. Clark turned into the other party in a blink of an eye, and followed the person in front of him in a few big strides. William, what's going on? The previous special operations team member turned around and asked. Nothing. Clark, who turned into William's appearance, replied in a deep voice, his attitude very cold. The other party did not feel that there was anything wrong. Which of these people is a good-tempered person? You may need to disguise yourself in front of other people, but now that you are surrounded by your own people, there is nothing to disguise. Follow the army all the way. Clark soon saw Fury and Carol again. The two had just been locked up. As a result, Fury was just about to send a message requesting support when the door was opened. Agent Fury, your mission is over, and we will take over the rest. The man in the black suit at the head showed his ID. He is a level 6 agent with a full 3 levels higher in authority than Fury. Facing an unfamiliar commander to grab his own mission makes Fury very unhappy. Chief Jerry, huh? Fury saw the name on the other party's document and said, I have to contact Chief Kohler about this matter first, otherwise I won't be able to make a difference. Quote. Kohler is Fury's direct subordinate, plus this mission was also ordered by Kohler to investigate secretly, and now suddenly run out of such a team, it is difficult to say whether there is something tricky in this. Remember who you are, Agent Fury. Jerry said in a bad tone. I'm not asking you now, I'm ordering you. Got it. Quote. Fury's face darkened a little. As a result, Jerry didn't bother to pay attention to him, turned directly to Carol on the side, and immediately changed to a more polite but also very official attitude and said, Carol. Miss Danvers, we will be in charge of your trip next. You want to investigate the information about the Pegasus program, right? We can give you access to this. Quote. Obviously, the people of Hydra came prepared. Even Carol's identity has been investigated. Are they your colleagues? Carol did not take care of Jerry, but turned to ask Fury next to him. Fury, who had a black face, nodded, took out his BB machine, and said, I will report this matter, and before that, I have the right to investigate with you. Quote. Bang. Fury was about to send a message from the BB when he suddenly heard a gunshot, followed by a sharp pain in his hand. What are you doing? Jerry darkened his face and looked at one of Fury's special operations team members who raised his pistol. The gunshot just now startled them. Can't let him spread the news here, that would leak our actions this time. Clark, who turned into William's appearance, looked like he was thinking about the organization. Jerry even had the heart to shoot him at this moment. Who picked this idiocy to join? Leak your actions. Fury, whose palm was injured, looked sharply at them. What do you mean? Who the hell are you? Quote. At this moment, he no longer believed that this group of people were S.H.I.E.L.D. people. How could anyone from S.H.I.E.L.D. shoot their colleagues because of this little thing? Moreover, the other party's words just now revealed a smell of conspiracy in and out of the words. Of course, Fred admitted. The person who said this is indeed stupid. Fortunately, this idiot is not on their side. So, these guys aren't your colleagues? Carol asked Fury. I said, why do you care so much about these guys as my colleagues? Want to network? The corners of Fury's eyes twitched slightly, and he said in his mouth, no matter who they are not people from S.H.I.E.L.D. anyway. Quote. Fury during this period is full of confidence in S.H.I.E.L.D., even if he knows that these people in front of him are Hydra, he will think that they are impersonated S.H.I.E.L.D. personnel, and will not directly think that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been infiltrated by Hydra. After Fury said this, Carol's gaze towards these people also brought a hint of hostility. And this time, destroy important story items, destroy points plus 30,000. Closing square bracket. Minor injury to the future shield, destruction points plus 3000. Closing square bracket. Two system prompts flashed through his mind, which made Clark quite satisfied. The so-called important plot item should refer to Fury's BB machine, which will be transformed by Carol and become the only way for Fury to contact Carol after the purple potato essence snapping finger incident in the future. And now, it was shot by Clark and apparently couldn't be used. Compared to the first one, the second point tip didn't get much attention from Clark. Keep up the good work. Clark encouraged himself mentally. On the surface, his expression was gloomy, and the muzzle was pointed directly at Carol. This Miss Carol, please come with us. Compared to Jerry's attitude, Clark was not very polite. Sure enough, Carol sneered, and her hands immediately lit up with a beautiful energy light. Wait, Miss Carol, listen to me. Jerry tried to explain, but immediately after that, he heard a gunshot. Bang! The bullet hit Carol directly in the abdomen, and the warhead hit the Kree Empire battle suit she wore inside, smashing and falling. It didn't hurt it at all. But this behavior completely angered Carol. You did it first, she said coldly. The next moment. Bang! A beam of energy slammed directly on Clark's body. He and several people behind him flew out. All calm me down. Quote. Jerry roared with a black face. At this moment, even if William in Clark's pretending to be did not die under Carol's beam of energy, he would shoot the other party with his own hands. What a pig teammate this TM. It's even more terrifying than 100 godlike opponents. The rest of the special operations team members who had just raised their guns to fight back heard Jerry's voice and stopped shooting one after another. Miss Carol, there must be some misunderstanding in this. Jerry also wanted to try to explain. But at this moment, among those who had just been thrown out, one of them sat up straight, and without hesitation, swept a shuttle bullet at Carol. The bullet clanged against Carol's combat suit, and the impact knocked her back several steps before stopping. She looked over there with a more gloomy face. I saw William, whose face was full of blood and still spraying blood in his mouth, sneering and shouting, "Kill one me, and thousands of me, cut off one head, and two heads will grow. Long live Hydra." Quote. Boom. An energy beam directly slammed into William's face, causing his whole person to directly crash through a wall, and he didn't know whether he was alive or dead. Of course, everyone thought that William must have died. It's just that many people really want to drag his corpse over and whip it again. Among them, this idea is the strongest. It was Jerry. He simply hated this William. How could he have such stupid subordinates? I'd rather see if you can grow a second head. Carol said coldly. She didn't know what Hydra was, she was just angry at the other party's repeated provocations. But Fury on her side was different. You are Hydra. Fury had now wrapped a strip of cloth around the injured hand, and in the other hand he was holding a gun, which was aimed at the men. What is Hydra? Carol asked curiously. An evil organization whose purpose is to rule the whole world. Fury explained simply. Carol nodded, having a general idea of this Hydra in her heart. Needless to say, Carol, a righteous warrior, feels obligated to teach this evil organization called Hydra a lesson. It just so happens that she also hates this group of guys in front of her. Especially the guy who had just been bombarded by her two energy beams in a row. But I have to admit that that guy's physical fitness is still very good, at least stronger than most people on this planet, and he is not dead with an energy beam that resists himself, he is a man. You know, even a Kree whose average physical fitness far exceeds that of an Earthling, without wearing combat uniforms, a single energy beam that resists her will be injured. Not to mention these Earthlings in front of him who are physically fragile in Carol's opinion. Jerry sighed, he was out of turn. William even shouted out their Hydra slogans, what else can he do? Hands on. Forcibly take the target away. Jerry, who had a gloomy face, ordered directly. He finally stopped hiding himself. HMPH. I know you're not a good thing either. Quote. Carol sneered. Jerry's eyes were cold. Step back to the rear and give up your position to the members of the Special Operations team. He didn't want to talk nonsense with Carol anymore. Originally, He also wanted to use gentle means to deceive the other party's trust. But now it seems that this method is no longer working. Hey, Fury, are you okay? Carol turned to Fury next to him. Fury smiled and shook his other hand. I have two hands. Carol laughed. She has a very good impression of this earthling named Fury, and some of the qualities in the other party make her agree with it very much. And, this is a good man. Then, it's coming. Carol yelled. Fury's expression was serious, and he had already found cover. He's not like Carol, who is invulnerable. He is only a mortal body. So you have to find a cover to dodge the bullets. At this time, the alarm of the base also sounded, and a burst of footsteps rushed towards this side. Move fast. Jerry ordered loudly. A group of special combat team members led the order and directly shot at the two people in front of them. When the wall collapsed, William, who everyone thought was dead, had just risen from a pile of rubble. It really hurts, but Carol is really mediocre at this stage. Clark had changed into the appearance of a night demon as he spoke. He rubbed his cheeks and felt the pain on his face disappearing quickly. Half a month ago, Clark's Kryptonian template unlocking degree reached 1%, and his physical fitness had reached 200 times that of ordinary people. And now, his physical fitness has almost reached about 300 times that of ordinary people. This is not as simple as a one-sided triple hundredfold, but an all-round improvement. Therefore, he resisted Carol's energy beam with his face so that he was not disfigured. Of course, this also has Carol's current energy beam power is not very large, plus she is facing a fragile earthling, she does not use her full strength at all, these two factors are included. Otherwise, Carol in the dual star state can easily penetrate even the space battleship, not to mention Clark's current defense ability. At this stage, Clark's body defense can withstand rifle fire at close range, the strength of one hand can reach 15 tons, the power of lifting heavy objects, not fist power, the running speed at full speed can reach 3 times the speed of sound, and the power of one punch can easily destroy a heavy tank. But he still can't fly, and his eyes can vaguely feel some kind of change brewing in the near future, but he can't release heat rays yet. But Clark felt he wasn't far from that. Maybe half a month, maybe a month. Sooner anyway. Plus this time I got such a big number of points. It may not take a few days. His eyes can emit heat rays. Use the points first. Clark listened to the movement outside, and felt that he would not need to appear on his own for a while. He summoned his character panel, and his thoughts clicked on the plus sign behind the Kryptonian template. Already owned template, Kryptonian template 1.06% plus. It took dozens of consecutive clicks to spend the destruction points on his hand. And the degree of template unlocking has also changed. Already owned template, Kryptonian template 1.39% plus. After adding points, Clark turned and opened the door to the next door. As soon as the door opened, he encountered a group of soldiers who came to support. It's the enemy. Attack. Groove. Is it so decisive? Clark did not know that the commander of this base had given an order, and anyone who was not this base would be shot and killed after seeing it. And Clark's current appearance is obviously not his own person. Where will people be polite with him? The bullet crackled and hit Clark's body, even on the face and eye mask. But apart from making Clark slightly painful, it didn't have any substantial effect. You're done attacking, now it's my turn. Clark smirked. Boom. The ground under his feet cracked directly. Before the soldiers on the opposite side could see clearly, the upper bodies of several soldiers in front had exploded into a blood mist. What's going on? An officer shouted in panic. As a result, as soon as the words fell, he saw the person before appear in front of him like a ghost. You. As soon as the commander of the base wanted to speak, half of the people flew out. Syllable. A mosaic stuck to the wall. Less than half a minute. The entire team of base soldiers was all solved by Clark. It's just that the scene is a little too bloody. Clark grinned. Pay attention next time, he muttered. The other side. Carol took Fury and had already solved the Hydra's special operations team. But the guy named Jerry ran fast, and he didn't know where to run. And now, the two of them are being chased by soldiers from the base. Carol didn't want to kill these innocent soldiers, so he was a little worried when he started, and the two could only retreat in embarrassment. Go to the archives, we can't run for nothing. Fury said to Carol. Carol nodded, energy gathering in her hands. An energy beam blasted out and directly blasted through the wall in front of him. Go. She ran ahead first. Huh. It's gone. In the passage, there were corpses on the ground. Clark solved the last enemy and suddenly turned his head to look to the other side. His gaze penetrated the layers of walls and saw two figures running into the safe passage. Perspective, super hearing. Of course, unlike Superman, who is formed to be able to easily monitor the world, Clark can't do that yet. But he could do it just by listening to what was going on inside an air base. As for perspective, it is also the ability that appeared some time ago. That day, Clark suddenly found that he could see directly through the wall and see the picture on the road outside the house. Everything seems normal. There is no such thing as a splitting headache. Including super hearing, Clark can easily listen only to what he wants to hear, as if instinctively, filtering out those that don't matter. Really, it looks like I have to come by myself. Clark shook his head, unable to say disappointed or anything. Although he originally wanted Carol to do it. But he seems to have underestimated the kindness and calmness of the other party. Treadmill. Hurried footsteps came from the other side of the passage. Clark looked at that. More soldiers poured in. All of them were heavily armed, and even brought some powerful weapons of destruction. Well, our Captain Marvel is a good guy, but I'm not. As he spoke, he had already rushed forward. Fire! The commander at the scene roared, grabbed the shoulder rocket launcher from the soldier next to him, and directly buttoned the launch button towards the target. The lights flickered and the fine stone dust on the walls continued to fall. The whole base seemed to be shaking. Fury, who was quickly going downstairs, almost fell, but Carol on the side helped him. Be careful. Carol reminded. Fury nodded, and he looked up. What tricky enemy have they encountered? Carol shook her head and said, no matter who it is, at least the other party buys us time. Quote. She didn't think about how many casualties the appearance of this unknown enemy would cause. Although she herself did not want to kill those innocent soldiers, it did not mean that she would care too much about the lives of these people. Carol is kind. But only in the normal sense of kindness and don't forget she's a warrior. For life and death, she actually looks at it lightly. You're right. Fury nodded. Compared to Carol, he doesn't care about this. The only thing he cared about was, has Hydra's support arrived? How many people came? Will it be necessary to use weapons of this firepower? You know, this is in the middle of a mountain. Although it has been reinforced by modern technology, if it really makes too much movement, it will collapse. Let's hurry, I don't want to be buried in a pile of stones. Fury said quickly. Carol nodded. She didn't want that either. Bang! The exploding fireball shattered the wall made of reinforced concrete, and a figure slowly approached in the midst of a cloud of smoke. The power is good, but the accuracy is a little worse. Clark stepped out of the smoke-filled area, patted the dust on his clothes, and looked around at the corpses. He walked up to a guy who wasn't dead yet. Demon. You ill, it's going to hell. Quote. The lieutenant, who was pressed by the stone slab on the ground, let out a vicious curse. Clark smiled nonchalantly. You are not the first to call me a demon. As for hell, you can visit it later when you have the opportunity. I believe Mephisto should welcome me as a guest. God will punish you. The lieutenant on the ground spat blood and continued to curse. Clark stooped to pick up a gun from a pile of rubble. Then please go and help me and ask him how the old man will punish me. He laughed and pulled the trigger. Bang! The world went quiet. Dropping the gun, Clark walked towards safety. The overhead alarm lights are still flashing red. Clark's super hearing allows him to hear everything moving in the entire base. He heard the sound of cars starting, heard the roar of someone, heard whispered prayers, heard crying with trembling. These voices are intertwined, like a microcosm of the mundane world. Clark now feels more and more like Superman. As long as I want, I can do it. But he also admired Superman's righteous heart even more. What kind of will can make him have such great power, but still restrain himself? Is it ideological confinement? Or the bond of loved ones? Maybe both, maybe neither. Clark is not Superman. He can't be a hero like Superman. Even without this power, he would not want to be a hero. Because being a hero is too tiring, too many people will evaluate your behavior, the kind of pointing fingers, obviously weak like ants, but triumphantly criticizing the behavior of the gods. It's ridiculous. Thanks for watching.